So today we'll be discussing on one important subject with the synergy of animal motifs as mnemonic to Harihara icons. And many of us are aware that there are a lot of composite animals in Indian art, and one among them being the animal motifs being synthesized or brought together as a complex complex motifs of representing some cultural or religious thoughts. So the amalgamations or attempted amalgamations of different religions, cultures, or schools of thought is seen in the Indian cultures, religious cultures in India as well. Max Muller, a German philologist and Orientalist, brought the term into wider usage in the scholarship on the Indian religious studies or the Indian cultural studies or artistic studies on Indian cultures, particularly Hinduism, whose scriptures mention and praise numerous deities as if they are one ultimate unitary divine essence. So as Max Muller was trying to understand the Vedas or the Vedic scriptures, he brought in many new terms, or he coined new terms in understanding the gods or the divine beings mentioned in the Vedas. The Smarta tradition of Hinduism worships the 5 major deities as supreme in turn and collectively. So he brings in Catholicism is a term coined by the philologist Max Muller to mean that worship of one god at a time. It is closely related to Henotheism, the worship of one god while not rejecting the existence of other gods. So Max Muller coined the term in reference to the Vedas, where he explains each deity is treated as supreme in turn. Polytheism is the worship of or belief in multiple deities, which are usually assembled into a pantheon of gods and goddesses along with their own religions and rituals. So in India, we see this as in the larger terms, which is reflected in the tribal traditions or the local folklore traditions or the classical iconographic traditions as well. So here Max Muller tries to understand that there are different variations where they are synchronized into one form, into a philosophical understanding in Indian religious studies. So polytheists do not always worship all the gods equally, but they can be henotheists specializing in the worship of one particular deity. Other polytheists can be cathotheists worshipping different deities at different times. Like when we worship as Matas, we worship different gods. Maybe during Ram Navami, we worship Ram. During Shivratri, we worship Shiva. So like this, we have a calendar of festivals to appreciate and praise these gods in different times. So that's what Max Muller is trying to understand when he was reading the Vedas. He found that there is a calendar of worshipping in the Indian system, and this has been created in a creative framework of religious syncretism that will be seen in one of the published lithoprint books of Mysore. It's called the Shiva Gita. It is now in the Oriental Research Institute. It is about Ram. This is the Yuddha Khanda before Ram proceeds to the Yuddha. He worships all the gods. So you see here the artist has understood this concept and he brings in the imagery of all the gods in one small page. Apart from that, we also see a syncretism on Samudranamarna episode. This is also one of the Mysore paintings, now in the collection of San Diego Museum. And this episode brings in a collective or the synchronism of all the gods into one framework. And also, we also see some of the Tanjavur paintings where Gomata or Kamadhenu or Surabhi is worshipped, and on Surabhi you see all the gods depicted there. So once you worship Gomata, it is like a synonym that you worship all the gods. So synergy of animal motifs can be studied in this varied repositories of Indian art forms. A significant component in the enhancing world of composites are spectrum of fabulous animals. So here, let us see how these composite animals depict a very nucleus of our religion or the Hindu religion here. I came across this particular concept when I first visited Badami with Dr. Kulkarni sir when I was a student of art history. So when we went there, then sir explained to us this is one of the most fantastic sculpture and see the creativity of the artist. But when I appreciated this as just as a skill of an artist until I went to Tirukarangudi, one of the temples in Tirunelveli districts. Uh, Only when then I seriously started looking into this sculpture as just not a sculptural skill of the artist, but something more beyond this still has to be explained. So when we go into the cave number 1, we also find Harihara sculpture, which is accompanied by Parvati and Lakshmi. We also have another sculpture at cave number 3, Harihara. So all these actually are a kind of a prelude to my understanding of this animal motif. I would like to make a clarification on one point that Dr. Lakshika made yesterday in her presentation, saying that this animal motif of this Rishabha Kunjara is the first seen in 10th century or 11th century. But I would like to show you that there are few other representation earlier to that. So this is Gaja Rishabha sculpture sketches near Pattadakal, identified by Dr. Srikumar Menon from National Institute of Advanced Studies, Bangalore. So here you see sketches on a boulder, where probably the artist must have tried to learn or create this basic Rishabha Kunjara before he sculpted the actual sculpture. So this is from Virupaksha Temple, Pattadakal. Here you see the sculptures are accompanied by floral designs on the bottom. So this is the sculpture that Dr. Lakshika mentioned yesterday. This is from Airavateshwara Temple, built by Rajaraja II. This sculpture, what you see, is one of the most beautiful, as these animals are decorated, ornamentally decorated so beautifully, accompanied by a person who is unidentified till now, and floral designs just make this composition a beautiful visual representation. So what you see here in another representation of Rishabha Kunjara is from Virupaksha Temple, Hampi. This is a mural from 1520 to 25, identified by Dr. R.H. Kulkarni, my teacher. So this is another Rishabha Kunjara from Jalakanteshwara Temple, Velur. And I acknowledge the photographer, Mr. Thomas Alexander, for sharing this. And here you see that the elephant and the bull image, the Rishabha and the elephant here are fused together, and to a point that you just can't identify the head. So it is just in kind of a fusion. So there is another similar sculpture at Varagaraja Perumal Temple, Kanchipura, the period unknown, because in this temple there are mandapams at various periods. So we are not able to still identify which period the sculpture belongs to. There is another representation of the same Rishabha Kunjara in a coin of the Senji Nayaka period between 16th century to 18th century. Here again, you see the Rishabha and the animal motif fused together in this coin. So this is another image from Melkote. And this is another one from Vijay Vitala Temple, Hampi. And here it is very clear, though it is of a simple motif without much ornamentation, the sculptor has tried to bring in the a very beautiful representation of this Rishabha Kunjara here. So this is another sculpture from Shikara Shingnapur, which is near Satra. This is again a Shiva temple. There are few other temples where this representation, the Rishabha Kunjara, is available, but I am unable to show you the images. But what excited me to do a research on this particular theme, the Rishabha Kunjara, is because I'm doing a monograph of this particular temple sculptures at Tirukkarangudi. So when I went there, um, I saw this sculpture at the entrance of the Gopuram to my right hand side, and accompanied by Harihara there. And what is exciting about this sculpture is that the entire Gopuram, this is a Vaishnava temple, but still there are a lot of Shaiva images equally spread across the entire Gopuram. So here you see both Shaiva and Vaishnava sculptures equally distributed with rare themes depicted all over the Gopuram. So here, when I was just looking into this particular Rishabha Kunjara, the fusion of the elephant and the bull, I wanted to learn a little more about this. And till now, this does not. I thought it was just a sculptural skill. But as I was looking into this entire sculptures there and the concept in which this particular temple itself was built, because I observed that not only this particular concept of Shiva and Vishnu being sculpted in the entire Gopuram panels, but the inside sanctum as well. There is a Vishnu here at the center, and Shiva, the Mahendra Girinadhar, who is also equally worshipped with importance. And apart from that, there is also a Bhairava sanctum within the same premises of the temple. So this actually gave me a clue to understand this culture even more better than what it was. So this is the Gopuram where the sculpture is present. And you see, we can see a lot of inscriptions from 15th century to 17th century in this particular Gopuram. You also see Udaya Martandavarman inscriptions here, who visited this temple for the Kumbhabhishekam in 1706 and again in between 1784. So there is also a reference of the Pandya kings who have donated to the constructions of the temple as well. So there is also a sculpture of Harihara. So this is the entire temple plan. This is the entrance, and this is the this first Gopuram is unfinished. This is the second Gopuram where the sculptures are. So what is important in this temple is that there are 5 Vishnu representations in the standing posture, sitting posture, and the sleeping posture, the Shayana posture, Kidanda Nambi, Nindra Nambi, and Irunda Nambi. But apart from that, you also have a Shiva Sannidhi, which is the Mahendra Girinadhar, and he's called the Pakkam Nindravar. Pakkam Nindravar, he's the one who is a very close associate of Vishnu. And there is also a temple for Bhairava. And I also observed that the Pandya region has a lot of temples very similar to this Smata tradition or the Panchayatana tradition. So this is the graph of the temple. So this is the Vishnu Sanctum, and this is the Mahendra Girinadhar Shiva temple, and here is the Bhairava temple. But unfortunately, few years back, the temple authorities had removed this particular Shiva lingam from this place, and probably they did not understand the Vishnu Panchayatana concept in which this temple was built. So here in the Vishnu Panchayatana temple construction concept, you see Vishnu in the center. You also have Surya, Ganesha, Shiva, and Devi temples within one premises. So here in this Tirukkarangudi temple, we have Vishnu here, and Shiva is placed just adjacent to Vishnu here, and also a Bhairava temple here. Apart from that, there is also Mother Goddesses worship, which is a folklore tradition which the sculptures are within the premises of this large temple. So in the 16th chapter of the Garuda Puran includes significant sections with the references for Shiva, Shakti, and Smata tradition, including the Panchayatana Puja of Vishnu, Shiva, Durga, Surya, and Ganesha. The main aspects of Garuda Puran, though they are, it's about Nishchitra, the ethics of right contact. There's also scriptures referring to the Panchayatana worship in the Garuda Puran. So this is the Shiva temple which was removed, and in 2010 the High Court ordered for reinstating this Shiva Linga here, but unfortunately they did not reinstate it inside the same place, but they put the Shiva temple outside the main temple compound. So now today Shiva Linga is here. That they created a small temple here. Probably the temple authorities did not understand the Vedic concept from which this temple was erected. So they I was not able to take the photograph of the Shivalinga as the priest did not permit me, but I took a board, a photograph of the board which was there. Before, as Shivalinga was removed from the sanctum, he was kept inside the paddy until he was consecrated in another place. So apart from that, there was also Alvars who had sung the praise of Shiva in their Thiruvaimoli, but unfortunately the temple authorities and the head priest or the jeer failed to note the importance of Shivalinga inside the temple. So when I was studying and searching for this particular concept of what the Panchayatanas and the Panchayatana style of temples, I came across one litho print. When I was searching for Raja Ravi Varma's litho prints, I came across this amazing litho print of Rishabha Kunjara along with Shiva and Vishnu. So immediately I was able to link this particular photograph to the sculpture that I saw in Tirukadangudi, and after that only I started searching for other images from various other temples. So the fused representations of Vishnu, Hari and Shiva from the Hindu tradition, also known as Shankara Narayana in our worshipping terms. This concept of equivalence of various gods as one principle and oneness of all existence is discussed as Harihara in the text of Advaita Vedanta school of Hindu philosophy. So here, when after that I started searching other representations as well in other mediums. So in Mylapore, we Kapalishwara temple on the East Gopuram, we also find one stucco sculpture of the same representation along with Raja Ravi Varma's litho print of the same concept of the fusion and the legend behind this particular sculpture. We also have few other litho prints of. So Shiva admonished Brahma for his unholy behavior towards Shatrupa and chopped off his fifth head as punishment. He was inflicted with the Brahmahatya dosha. So where Shiva cut off one of the heads of Vishnu, Brahma, where Brahma's head stuck to Shiva's hand. The skull remained stuck fast to Shiva's hand, and though he was capable of burning it up, Shiva wandered the earth with the sake of all the people until he came to Benares. So this is the story. When he came to Benares, Annapurni gave him the Bhikshatana, and that Kapala fell from his hand. But in the south, the same story is narrated in one of the temples. Shiva wandered from one place to another. He finally came to Tirukandayur. There, the Sthala Perumal sent Mahalakshmi to give Bhikshatana to Lord Shiva. Goddess Mahalakshmi too came out in all her glory and started emptying the Bhikshatana into the Kapala. The Kapala at once overflowed and fell onto the ground. Some legends also claim that Lord Mahavishnu cut his chest and offered the flowing blood into the Kapala. So Shiva was released from the curse at once and thanked Lord Vishnu for his timely help. Since Lord Vishnu had hidden Lord Shiva ridden of his curse, he came to be known as Harisabha Vimochanar. So there is one temple here in this particular place, Tirukandayur. This is the Harisabha Vimochana Perumal temple in the outskirts of Thiruvayaru in South India, state of Tamil Nadu. After that incident, the tank came to be known as Kapala Tirtha. So this particular episode is the legend says that this happened in this particular place in Tirukandayur, where Hari was relieved from his curse, and that is why we have this particular episode narrated in the temples. In the temple. So after seeing this particular legend story, I came to a conclusion that this is why this Rishabha Kunjara is a mnemonic representation to the Harihara iconography. Probably the whole story can be simplified and had as a mnemonic to the entire story. The sculptors made it simplified the entire story and then fused these two animals to remind us of this legend. So one sculpture, apart from that, I also found one sculpture of Vishnu riding on an elephant. I think this is the one and only sculpture that I have come across. Probably there must be more. If I have to search and find out if anybody of you have seen it, please let me know. So here, this is from Karnataka, Kopeshwara temple, Kiratapur, it is in Maharashtra. One of you can see Vishnu here on the right riding on an elephant and Shiva Parvati on a bull, and again Brahma is again riding on the Airavata. So the Vedic concept of fusing is also seen in Ekapada Murti, as was mentioned by Kirankan Chaudhary sir in his lecture. So here also you find the fusion of the Trimurtis. So a distinction between accidental and syncretism, between the true syncretism is that reflecting a similarity in meaning or whether they are just accidents of phonological development. So here, this is not an accident. The fusion of this bull and the elephant is not an accident, but it is a visual narrative or a linguistic discussed in terms of Harihara. So modeling synchronisms in sculptures. So considering various theoretical tools that's built around the decomposition of morphological categories into smaller units of meaning. So when the Stapati or the sculptor brings in a very simplified notion of a larger legend story into a simple format. This is deconstructed or decomposed and made it simplified for the viewers to understand the entire story. And this is how it is like a mnemonic to the recollection of the Harihara concept. The reason is that the particular idea is shared among many different approaches, alternative conceptions based on geometric paradigms. So when the sculptor or the Sapati try to bring in his own way of uh, um, uh, creating a sculpture, here there is new sculptures that evolved over a period of time. Conclusion. Philosophically, the Smarta tradition emphasizes that all murtis are icons of Saguna Brahma, a means of realization, the abstract ultimate reality called Nirguna Brahma. The 5 or 6 icons are seen by Smartas as multiple representation of one Saguna Brahma. That is a personal God with form rather than a distinct being. The ultimate goal in the practice is to transition past of the use of icons, then follow a philosophical and meditative path to understanding the oneness of Atma behind this. So thank you so much. And I thank Dr. Pita Nair for giving me a wonderful opportunity to share my research work with you. And I thank all the scholars who are present here and students here. Thank you so much.